Good evening, folks. Thanks for watching. Welcome to the Dave Englishman Show with me, your host, David Englishman. So, last night's show ended on kind of a bad note. I had dumped 2 videos and I forgot to actually take them out of my trash, so the video stops. The first and only time I've ever edited a video, and I cut off a total of 5 minutes. And I'm going to pick up, I was actually going to do this in 2 parts, but it forced me to do it a little bit early. So, again, thank you for watching. I want to jump right into this and pick up where we were last night. So, in part 1, and I'm calling this episode 1 and 2 of Birds of a Feather Stick Together, and I'll explain why. So, in part 1, we covered the Great Barrington Declaration. We know that they now have 18,000 signatures from leading doctors, epidemiologists, scientists, professors, saying that what President Trump is actually saying, that we need to move on with our country and put people back to work and put kids back in school, is the right thing to do. Our country depends upon it. Our future depends upon it. This country can't afford to watch thousands and thousands of businesses go under and lose millions and millions and millions of workers. Just in the food industry alone, they're saying that you could have upwards of 3 to 4 million unemployed people just from the food restaurant industry. That's ridiculous. They're saying the number could go as high as 13 to 14 million. Folks, that's insane. So, we looked at that, and then I got right into covering Crooked Joe and his crazy son Hunter, who's even dumber than he is, and their malfeasance, their fraud, their pay-to-play schemes, the money laundering, and then I showed you what Kamala Harris is really made of. She is anti-free speech, and she will crack down on police. She will put police behind bars, and she'll let terrorists, she'll let muggers, murderers, looters, she'll let people like that out of prison without bail. Without bail. What you see going on in New York is what's going to happen all over the country with getting out with no bail. It was Kamala Harris and people on the Biden campaign who were contributing money to bailing these Antifa and BLM people out of jail before, in some cities, the bail just disappeared by judges' orders. This is why I say it's really important that we put Amy Coney Barrett on the Supreme Court, because you can see by the lower court judges that were appointed under Obama that a rampant abundance of lawlessness pervades through some of the courts. And it's not about judicial ruling, it's about political ideology. And this is why it's so important that we equal out the balance to a more, not even conservative, but a more republic, constitution-guided judge who reads the Constitution as written, not to bend it to go into somebody's will. The Constitution is our laws. The Bill of Rights is our laws. These people are out to take the law away and impose their law, which is tyrannical law. So we got into that, and we got into Hunter Biden, we got into his son, we got into Kamala, and I want to get into some other things this evening. So I had run across this story, and I didn't know if it was true. I still have 95% of me believes that this is true, and 5% of me is like, maybe not. But from everything I'm reading, because there's multiple sources that this is out on, Hillary's emails, she's under investigation again, right? Her and the Clinton Foundation. So anyway, they're saying that she actually framed or engineered the Benghazi attack and basically was an accomplice to Ambassador Stevens' death. And the reason that they're saying this is that they're saying, I'll just read it. It's it ties right in with everything I've been talking about and everything that's coming out on the news, including about Hunter Biden and him being a little girl diddler of really little girls. So it says here, WikiLeaks is about to confirm the story that the Common Sense show told 4 years ago, in that Ambassador Stevens was set up to die because his stories of gun running, child trafficking, and drug running on behalf of the CIA in order to promote regime change in Libya using terrorists funded by illegal activities were leaking out, and it was only a few months until the election. Subsequently, Ambassador Stevens had to be silenced, and General Petraeus had to be put in a place where he was not forced to testify before Congress because he could not take the Fifth Amendment before Congress. At the same time, Clinton was broadcasting Stevens' whereabouts, and she refused to provide the extra protection Stevens was desperately requesting. Do you remember back right after Benghazi happened, they had the inquiry, and she testified that he didn't need the extra security, and that they were cutting back on security for all ambassadors, and they tried to use the excuse that they were cutting back. Do you remember that? Really telling now that this has come out, right? The child sex trafficking. This was going on for a long time. So we have that story from, and that's from WikiLeaks itself. And then we have the Federalist Papers, and it says the last batch of former Secretary of State Hillary Clinton's emails released by the State Department contained a shocking revelation regarding how she betrayed deceased Ambassador Christopher Stevens. And it goes on, it says, one email written by state employee Timmy Davis and forwarded to Clinton by her aide Huma Abedin listed the general location of Ambassador Chris Stevens. To list the ambassador's whereabouts and his travel arrangements is totally against protocol. Totally. That's basically guarded as state secret. Unless he's advertising he's going to a gala event and there's other high-profile people going, his itinerary is kept secret. Especially in a hostile country or a country that could potentially erupt and become hostile. That would be a highly guarded secret. So it says the situation in, it says written on Sunday, April 10th, 2011, the email contained the following passage. The situation in Ajdabiya has worsened to the point where Stevens is considering departure from Benghazi. The envoy's delegation is currently doing a phased checkout, paying the hotel bills, moving some comms to the boat, etc. He will monitor the situation to see if it deteriorates further, but no decision has been made on departure. He will wait 2 or 3 more hours, then revisit the decision on departure. So it goes on. It has emails that were sent out, and she's advertising where he is and what's going on. Basically inviting the attack. So if she wanted him out of the way, the easiest way to do it would be to send stand-down orders as soon as the violence began. And that's exactly what happened. These people are scum. Scum. So I want to show you a little clip. And this is our friend Nancy Pelosi. And I want to play you just 1 minute of this. And I want you to pay attention to what she does to Wolf Blitzer. If you haven't seen this, this is really telling. This video goes on for another 13 minutes. And she goes off on him a few different times. And she's basically calling him a shill for the conservatives, which would be unthinkable to us because he's such a diehard liberal communist quack. But to throw him off his game and to stop the questioning, she's now trying to make him look to the viewer's eyes on CNN like he's from the right side. How dare he question her? He's bringing right-wing views into all of this. I think some people in the media, some people who may have done some bad things throughout their careers to mislead the public, have some sense of integrity, maybe to a certain degree, and they feel ashamed of what's going on, and they actually see what's happening to the country, and they're starting to wake up a wee bit and ask some questions. I think we're going to see more of this throughout the coming 2 weeks, because I think they're seeing this for what it is. This is a con job, and the whole country is being sown a shitty sheep sweater that we're all supposed to wear, knowing that they have basically kept a candidate in whom the majority of the population knows is half out of his mind, because unfortunately he has dementia, or he has Alzheimer's, or something along those lines, and I feel bad for the man on that level. But on the other hand, he's a corrupt, fraudulent sellout who, to line his own pockets, has sold out this country. He is a national security threat to the United States. These countries, Russia, China, Iran, they have dirt on Biden. They have dirt on Hunter Biden. And to back it up, they've sent the woman that you're about to watch the video of one of the hard drives so that she could view it and know that they know everything. And they'll expose them if they don't do what they want. They have to win this election at all costs. And once they win, they have to do the bidding of the CCP. So watch how she obfuscates these really important questions, because it is true. She is holding up the negotiations on the money for COVID for the average American. Trump's already laid out what he'll offer. He doesn't want a bill in which she's loading up the bill with riders on it to pay for bankrupt states that have been in Democrat hands for decades. The Democrat governors and mayors have decimated these states, bankrupted them. California, New York, Illinois. And they're expecting us, the taxpayer and middle America, to pay billions to get these states out of debt. Billions. And meanwhile, Trump's ready to give a $1.18 trillion bill to help out the average American, small business, and the airlines, and she won't sign it. And then they turn around and blame Mitch McConnell for it? What kind of people are these people? They are lying to America's face, and yet there's 49% of the population doesn't see this. And it's because it's being hidden from them. And this is one of the very first times I've seen on mainstream media where somebody has the audacity to start calling it out for what it is.
States go bankrupt.
Excuse me for interrupting.
Let the states go bankrupt.
Madam Speaker, but they really need the money right now, and even members of your own.
I understand that,
but even members of your own caucus. Even members of your own caucus, Madam Speaker, want to accept this deal. $1.8 trillion. Congressman Ro Khanna, for example. Let me just quote Ro Khanna, a man you know well. I assume you admire him. He's a Democrat. And he just said this. He said, people in need can't wait until February. $1.8 trillion is significant and more than twice the Obama stimulus. Make a deal. Put the ball in McConnell court. So what do you say to Ro Khanna?
What I say to you is, I don't know why you're always an apologist, and many of your colleagues apologists for the Republican position. Ro Khanna, that's nice. That isn't what we're going to do, and nobody's waiting till February. I want this very much now, because people need help now. But it's no use.
So she puts him in his place. He asks her a bunch of further, more pertinent questions, and she flies off the handle. Like, the woman's unhinged, and she's doing everything she can. But she's saying that she wants this for the American people, and she listens to the people in her district and in her constituency. But she doesn't. She lives in this mansion. She eats a $13 a pint ice cream from her $25,000 double pair of freezers and refrigerators. And she talks down to all of the rest of us like we're children. I'm sorry, but she's not an elevated person. She works for us. And she's doing whatever she wants to do. I'm sorry, but she's the head of the party. This party is corrupt to the core. She's the core. Her and Schumer and all of them. Harris, Biden, they're all crooks, scam artists, communists, and crooks. Fraudulent hucksters. That's what they are. That's what their party has become. And people are falling for it because the news media is covering up everything. And it's one of the first times it's been called out. I couldn't believe it when I saw it. So as of today, the DOJ and the FBI confirmed that Hunter Biden's laptop is not, and I repeat, is not part of a Russian disinformation campaign. It's real. So tonight, just before I started filming this show, breaking news came out. The FBI says that they actually seized the laptop a year ago because the laptop is tied to a high-level money laundering scheme. And yet, Biden's still on the ticket to run for president. Biden's still on the ticket to run for president. How can that be? Just go back. I was a kid when they were going to impeach Nixon and he resigned because he was not impeached. Let's get that clear. The Democrats always say, oh, Nixon was impeached. No, he wasn't impeached. They were going to, but he resigned. But can you imagine if that was today? People would go, okay, he spied, right? Just like you did with Trump. This guy's actually colluding with foreign governments, hostile governments with nuclear capabilities, one who chants death to America, and these people are all colluding and dealing with them to line their own freaking pockets at our expense. At our expense. And meanwhile, you've got governors like Whitmer, who even though her own state came out against her and the judges came out against her and said that what she was doing was unconstitutional, she hasn't lightened up any bit on her draconian lockdowns. I mean, think about that for a second. This is what they want to bring to America, but they bring death and destruction, violence and chaos and looting and murder and mayhem to our streets. And then they claim that they're going to be doing this long after the election, and they want to bring it to the suburbs. And meanwhile, you've got a moron like Biden who wants to put Beto O'Rourke in charge of being the gun czar to go after the Second Amendment and try to remove our guns. Beto O'Rourke. The same guy who said he was born to run for being the president. Beto O'Rourke. And Harris is all for the new Green Deal. She's the one who actually presented it in the Senate. These people are out of their minds. Out of their minds. And you and me and even the people in the middle that are both left and right who may not like Trump as a person, or may not like his bravado, may not like his tweets, may not like the fact that he's a yes, he's a no gray guy. It's yes or no. It's on or off. And Trump makes decisions based upon facts, not from one person. Look at the people that he has surrounded himself with. And then look back at the video that I showed in part 1, and I show you the Biden surrogate who's being interviewed by a non-conservative journalist interviewer, and she is lowball compared to the people that Trump surrounds himself with. She fell right into the question. She answered the question. You notice that she has a green screen behind her. It's not turned on. Like, what kind of a low-budget campaign are they running down there for the Bidens? Where's all the money going, right? he's not being able to afford people who can actually speak properly and defend his position on camera. She admitted that nobody in the Biden camp is saying that the emails are made up. Nobody. Therefore, you now know that the FBI and the DOJ are saying that the laptop's not part of Russian disinformation. I just told you that breaking news right before I got on to do this filming is that the FBI's had the laptop for over a year because it's tied to a high-level money laundering scheme. He should not be running for president. He should not be running for president. And anybody on the left at this point in time who votes for Biden, I swear to God, you people have a mental deficiency. You have a total mental deficiency, right? There's no other, because you can't come to me on the moral issue or the integrity issue or on the truth issue. You can't come to me on any level and say that voting for Biden is moral, is ethical, is good for our country, that it won't put our country at risk, because it definitely will. If you can look me in the eye and tell me all those things, seriously, I'm calling you a doctor, because you need one. There's no way that a cognitive, high-end double digit, I'm talking 99, can't understand what Biden has done. Can't understand the grave threat that he is to our national security by these people holding all of these. They could release this or they could release that against them. And it's not just the Bidens. It's Nancy Pelosi. It's all of them. They're communists. Communists stick together. And I hate to say this, but for those of you who have, even if you have a cat, so you have a cat or a dog. A lot of you probably have a cat or a dog. You're walking your dog goes for a dump. What happens? It sticks together. It sticks together. And it stinks. And eventually it becomes rotten and it stinks worse and it starts decaying. That's the core of the Democrat Party. And I hate saying this, but again, it sticks together. Have you ever noticed that throughout history, the Conservative Party has never been 100% united? There was people who kind of followed the mainstream of the GOP party, but there was a lot of outliers who didn't follow the party line, and they fought against it. And that's what the framers wanted in our government. They didn't want a... remember on Star Trek, the episodes where they had the cube and it was the Borg, and they had a queen and it was all a hive mind? It's like the Democrats are like the Borg. They all gravitate around the same thought. They gravitate around the same paradigms of their thinking. And they never dissent. They never go out of the boundaries that is set for them by the leaders of the party. They all speak the same narrative. They all espouse the same views. Whereas the conservatives have different views. They have different outlooks. They have different aspirations. They're taking into account their district and their country on two different levels. And they try to weigh the two, and sometimes that doesn't go with the party line. To me, that is a more honest and open way of governing, because the people get to see you air your dirty laundry in public, right? As a people, instead of taking that in and absorbing it for what it really truly is, we've let the Democrats turn this into a game of, look at the Republicans and how disorganized they are. Look at the Republicans and how much infighting there is. Look at the Republicans and tell me that they're as good as we are, because we don't fight. We're here for you. But look at them over there. All they do is they fight, and they argue about all the things that they shouldn't be arguing about. They should come over to our way of thinking. Right? So they make them look like idiots. And the American public, because they've been massaged by the news media for the last 55, 60 years, with more BS, lies, and cover-ups, and directing a narrative to go in one direction, pushing us to a country where the rest of the world looks at all of us collectively. Ask any European, ask any Canadian. I know lots of Canadians. And a lot of them will say that they look at us as an immoral civilization. They look at America as its core values are immoral. The rest of the world doesn't look at us as if we have this glorious constitution. They see that, and they see that with the American dream, and they aspire to have that. But they see the American people as corrupt morally. Like we're morally bankrupt. And we have been. Because what we have elected as politicians has guided this country in the direction of immorality and no sense of self-worth and integrity. And this is why our civilization, even though we're still above everybody else in the world, has decayed over the last 50 years. It took a man like Donald Trump, who's not a politician, to be able to come in and say, I'm cleaning this crap up. I've watched this country slide into the abyss for the last 45 years since I was old enough to think on my own and rationalize what was really going on from not just a citizen, but from a business person's standpoint or point of view. And I think the country needed that. Whether you agree with what he says on his tweets or whether you agree with his bravado, that's all irrelevant at this point. Because you have to look at the man on his record. You have to gauge these two men on the record. Biden, 47 years, and has basically done nothing. And the things that he has done more harm to the black community than it's done good. And now we find out that he's a fraudster. He cheats, he lies, he covers up, he's involved in money laundering. He's just involved in a lot of bad, shady crap that has enriched his family. And yet the Democrats keep saying that Trump is only doing this job as president for the money. You got to be freaking kidding me. So you have Joe Biden on a government salary, right? As a senator, he was making what? I think it's $174,000 or $274,000 a year. Well, that's okay. You can do the math, 47 years times, I don't know what it was 47 years ago when he started, but just even take today's number. There's no way that he was able to get as wealthy as he is off the few $1 million that he might have made. But at the same time, he had expenses. Washington, D.C. is very expensive to live in. So how did this man accumulate wealth while supposedly and apparently fictitiously representing the people of the United States? He was enriching himself and giving away our country. And meanwhile, these same people who are willing to uphold that as their value and their golden child look at Trump and say, he's only doing this for the money. And meanwhile, since he's been in office, he's lost millions. He spent millions to run in the primaries, right? He stopped his kids from building anywhere else in the world right now because he doesn't want it to look like anybody could look at the family and say, see, told you. He stopped everything. And they still make up lies about him, right? And he even takes his salary as president and gives it away to charities. But he's in it for the money. See, it's about two ideologies, and everybody wants to say it's about the two men. It is about the men. On one sense, you've got a guy who says he's going to do something for the American people, and he does it. And he does it on multi-layers. He's done it across a gambit of different topics for both whites, blacks, Hispanics, Chinese, men, women, young kids, black kids. Didn't matter. Because Trump's vision for America is we're all one family. He tells you in his speeches, we're all one family. Understand something. For all of his roughness, for all of his crudeness, because he's been a businessman in New York City. He grew up in Queens. But he was a businessman in New York City, in Manhattan, dealing with mobsters and banksters. You become, even though he loves this country and he loves this our people, and he loves the American way and the American dream, and he loves and reveres the history, he's become not cold and callous, but some people may perceive him as that because of his bluntness. But understand something. He comes from the age where people spoke their mind. How do you think this country was founded? How do you think all these ideas and the massive growth that we've had, do you think that happened because somebody stifled us? Or do you think that happened because somebody took the lid off the pot and said, you're free? He sees that vision and what the founding fathers had. He knows what the founding documents are. He's not a stupid man. He's not perfect, but he's not a stupid man. And I'm telling you one thing, he's a far better choice than the Biden crime family. Can you imagine Hunter Biden? And would you want Hunter Biden anywhere near the White House at this stage of the game? I'm appalled that people can even vote for him now. I'm appalled. And this is the most important election of our lifetime. And they are trying to rig it with ballot fraud, ripping up ballots, throwing ballots away, lighting them on fire. Ballots are disappearing everywhere. Trump's talked about it in his rallies. And yet the crowds keep getting bigger and bigger and bigger. The people lining up down the streets is getting longer and thicker and deeper. And Biden's crowds are getting smaller and smaller and smaller. So he has to bring out the puppet master, Mr. Obama, to come out. So Obama comes out and starts saying how great he got the economy rolling, and Joe's going to pick up where he left off because Trump's taking credit for his economy and blah, blah, blah. Well, right before I got on to do the show, Herschel Walker's being interviewed, and he put it this way. I had to write it down because it was epic. He says, and I'm going to see if I can find the video and actually get it onto my show notes because it's that good. He said, it's like the football coach who continuously loses, gets fired, and his replacement goes on to win the Super Bowl. The former coach then goes around bragging his team won because of all the things that he did. And in a way, he's 100% right. But while I was writing this, the odd thing, because they showed a clip of Obama giving that speech. And so I had this picture in my mind as I'm writing this, and I write, goes on to win the Super Bowl, the former grudge, instead of the former coach. I wrote the former grudge because the only thing I can think of is Obama has such a grudge against Trump. Obamacare, the ACA mandate being wiped out, undoing all of his regulations that stifled America. Everything that he methodically did over an 8-year period to start the country on a downward decline where people were now apathetic and digesting and accepting that we weren't exceptional and that we weren't a strong country and that we couldn't be revived. That was becoming ingrained in us. And meanwhile, they were trademarking our children as future communists and future diehard socialists by indoctrinating them in the schools and in the universities and colleges. We have a whole generation right now that's completely lost. They have no idea what America represents. No idea. No idea. But imagine. Just imagine if he wins. So I wanted to play you a couple of minutes of this. I hope it will play. It's Glenn Beck, and he interviews Dr. Robert Epstein. And he's been researching how big tech actually can manipulate and brainwash us into voting a specific way, and how they cover certain things up with algorithms, and that they're actually affecting this election more than you think. This is like one of the most extreme things I've heard, and this is really radical, but this is really going on. Not only do the CEOs of Facebook and Twitter Jack Dorsey, he needs to be called up. He should have been called up today to go and testify. Zuckerberg, he needs to go. The CEO and founder of Google, he needs to be brought up and he needs to be questioned on the Hill. These people are directly affecting the most important, impactful election of our lifetime. And yes, we're getting louder at the rallies, but we're not getting louder at these people in power. They are not, and I repeat, they are not above us. They work for us. And we need to stand up loud and clear and start making phone calls, start sending emails, flood them with paper letters, mail them. They want the U.S. Post to work properly? We'll tie it up. You need to go and vote on Election Day. Don't send in one of these mail-in paper ballots that they're going to send you, because it's not the same thing that Trump votes or other people vote. This is just being mailed out randomly to everybody. This is insane. So, he interviews this guy, and he's going to tell you how bad it is with big tech.
Dr. Robert Epstein, explain. You write in your latest article, no matter which weak candidate the Democrats ultimately nominate, and even with Russia's help, President Donald Trump cannot win the 2020 election. For that matter, in races nationwide in which the projected winning margins are small, under 5% or so, Republicans in general are likely to lose. That is quite a statement. Back it up.
Well, unfortunately, those statements are not only true, I'm actually understating the gravity of the problem. So, to understand what's happening here, you have to go back to what my Democrat friends call Armageddon Day. You call it Election Day, 2016, but they call it Armageddon Day. You have to go back to that day. You have to look at that a 1-hour video that leaked from Google right after the election, in which Google's top executives are saying straight out, this is a disaster, this is a calamity, we're never going to let this happen again. You have to look at some of the whistleblowers who have since been fired by Google or have quit, and they are telling us that from that day forward, Google, and to a lesser extent the other tech companies, made a decision. We are going to use every single technique we have available to us to shift votes and make sure that Trump is not reelected. So that's all a matter of record. Now, also a matter of record is a meticulous scientific research I've been doing since 2013 that shows the power that these companies have to shift votes. And I actually can calculate for each technique how many votes they can shift. So you asked, what are the techniques? What can they do? Well, the techniques are unbelievable. They've never existed before in human history. I've been stumbling on them one by one, carefully studying them with tens of thousands of participants in multiple experiments in multiple countries. The techniques are unbelievable. So I can start with the first one I discovered, which is SEAM, the search engine manipulation effect. This is simply the fact that if one candidate is favored over another in Google search results, which virtually everyone uses, that shifts votes to that candidate. And people can't see if there's any bias in search results. Almost no one can see it.
Correct. And there's no record of it.
Yes, this is called, internally at Google, these are called ephemeral experiences. We know this from a leak out of Google of emails to the Wall Street Journal in 2018, where one Googler is saying to fellow Googlers, it's hard to say, how can we use ephemeral experiences to shift people's views on Trump's travel ban? So these are ephemeral real experiences. Like you type in a search term, you get some search results. That information you're seeing on your screen is generated just for you, generated on the fly. It affects you because you're likely to click at what's at the top, so it definitely has an impact on you. And it disappears, and it's gone forever, and it's not stored anywhere. So that's ephemeral experiences. It's a perfect kind of manipulation because no one can go back in time and figure out what you were shown. It's perfect. And that technique alone can easily shift more than 20% of undecided voters without their knowledge up to 80% in some demographic groups. That was just my first discovery. That was way back in 2013. Since then, I've discovered about a dozen techniques like that, which are controlled entirely by these executives at these couple of companies, and you can't counteract what they're doing. It's not like a billboard. You see, you put up your billboard, I put up my billboard.
Right.
You buy your TV commercial, I buy my TV commercial. These techniques are nothing like that because it's one thing if you want to, buy some ads and post them on Facebook or something, well, then your competitor will do the same and so on. But what is Facebook itself? What is Google itself? What if the platforms want to support one candidate or one party? You cannot counteract what they're doing. Generally speaking, you can't even see what they're doing.
Generally speaking, you can't even see what they're doing. So not only do you have the news media, right, manipulating what you get told and force feeding you all of this garbage about how bad Trump is and he's done all these horrible things. Like I said before, he's human. He's not perfect. But he certainly hasn't broken any laws, and he's had, 5 or 6 different huge investigations? He's got to be the most investigated man on the planet, and nothing. So I'm assuming that either he's squeaky clean or the FBI and the Department of Justice that Obama had left in place are totally inept, have no clue what they were doing, and missed everything that was ever thrown at them. Or none of the made-up, fabricated, so-called evidence that was a web of lies was true. Not one shred of it. But yet they'll still stick to the Russian collusion shit right now to try to throw people off the scent of what Hunter and his dad, Joe, have been up to. What Nancy's been up to. Why they have blue state governors still keeping their states in lockdown. It's all a political tool and a ploy to get you to either just take your eye off the ball, not give because you're at home looking after your kids because you can't even get them to school. So you're doing home school learning. You're trying to work your own job from home, or you might have lost your job and on the verge of losing your home. I mean, the whole country right now is a shit show. Excuse my language. But we've allowed it to become this. We Americans. I'm not talking about the crazy, lunatic, far-fringe left. That's the core people who are following these Democrats. I hope and pray, seriously I do, that enough real Democrats, not the liberal, progressive, socialist, communist morons on that end, but the people who are Democrats, the people who actually saw John F. Kennedy as somebody who was a voice for good, even though he had his faults too, right? You didn't hear anybody freaking out then. Oh my God, he's got girlfriends in the White House. He's having sex at the pool while Jackie's inside pregnant. Nope, not a word. Media didn't say a thing. But yeah, that happened. Go look it up. So you've got such hypocrisy within the left because they have no principles. They have none. They have no morals. They have no integrity. They don't care if they lie. They don't care if they cheat. They don't care if they steal. They don't care if you know about it. They just keep throwing more shit at you to try to cover it up so you're so confused you go, okay, I really don't know if that happened at all. But when it comes to Trump, it's 24/7 from every left-wing politician, from every left-wing news media, from every left-wing journalist, radio host, TV anchor. It doesn't matter who they are. These people preach, and they preached for 2.5 years Russian collusion. Russia. Then it was Ukraine. Then it was impeachment. At first, it was 25th Amendment. They were going to wear a wire. These people are cracked. And they had some of the top people in the FBI, the CIA, the DOJ. It didn't matter what 3-letter alphabet acronym you want to put or label. They are all infected. There's still people in there that are of the infectious kind, the radical kind. But yet they have these Antifa BLM people who are going to come to our suburbs, whether Trump wins legitimately or whether Biden steals the election, and they plan on beating us into submission. And we're the bad people. But yet, I have to show you this. I have this out of order. Maybe it's a good thing I do, because this will show you how far the left is. They hate God. Most of them are atheists, the leaders of their party. And a lot of the people who are real hardcore lefties, they're all atheists too. They don't believe in God. They don't believe in Jesus. They're against "In God We Trust." They're against it written on our money. They're against seeing crosses on federal property. What are they going to do? Oh my God. Can you just imagine? Just imagine all the national graveyards that would be ripped apart if these people had their way. Imagine all the desecration that will go on in this country. Our heritage, our history, our founding would be smashed and forever lost for future generations. Like, I'm not joking, folks. This is where we're at. Some people may look at me and say, wow, that dude's a quack. But you want to know something? I've read so much. I've watched so many documentaries. I've watched so much news from both sides. I've become a sponge for this crap. And I'm so fed up. And I call it crap because it is. If you worry about your kids to the point where you're consuming all of this knowledge because you need to know, because I'm worried all the time about their future. I didn't want to bring 2 little boys into this world, or 2 little girls, or whoever into this world and know that we were going to be on the brink of losing our country. If I would have known that, I never would have had these kids. And I love them dearly. I hate saying that. That hurts. But really, do you want to give and leave your kids a legacy of, I didn't stand up for my country, and I let my country go to communism, and I left my kids in poverty and under the tyrannical boot of tyranny, and I'm on my deathbed knowing that that's what I left my children? I'm sorry, I can't do that. I'm going to fight for this country, whatever way I can. And right now it's behind a video camera. And I have a piddly little audience. But you know something? I have a good audience, because I know a lot of you. And you're good people. And you want to do the right thing for the country. But like me, you're just an average, ordinary citizen who, tries to put their best foot forward and really cares about the country and does care about their countrymen. I even care about the lunatics, the whole Looney Tune funny farm on the far left that are violent and punch people in the face. I pray for them. I pray for their salvation, because if they don't stop, they're going to hell. And you know it in your heart of hearts. This is a war now that's going on. And next show, I'm going to get into some more stuff about the Pope. There's been more groundbreaking information. It blows my mind. I'm totally blown away. But we've let our country turn into this. And we have to pick up the pieces, and we have to fix it now. This is it. We're on the cliff. If they push us anymore, we're over the cliff. We need to start pushing back. And here's the thing, folks. We outnumber them. We have strength in numbers. And I'm not saying go out and start a war. That's not what I'm saying here. I'm saying we outnumber them. You need to get out en masse and vote, 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 vote. Red up and down that ticket. You need to take the power away from these people. They need to be powerless. So I wanted to show you a couple of other interesting things. Okay, so I'm going to leave it here and I'm going to go down. I want to pull up a tweet that Robert Reich is a professor at a leading university. He's got quite the following. He writes, "When this nightmare is over, we need a Truth and Reconciliation Commission. It would erase Trump's lies, comfort those who have been harmed by his hatefulness, and name every official, politician, executive, and media mogul whose greed and cowardice enabled this catastrophe." What he's saying here in essence is we need to have like re-education camps in which they can heal the people who are afflicted with Trump derangement syndrome. You know, like the girl who screams up at the sky, "Oh God, he won, Hillary." Remember that? She's been in almost every meme that's gone around over the last 3.5 years. She's the one with the rubber coat and the hoodie. Moron. He's basically saying that they will get help to be able to get through and comfort everyone who's been harmed by his hatefulness and his lies. But the rest of us, well, we're rounding you up and we're going to hold you responsible for this catastrophe. Don't forget, folks, Hillary called us a basket of deplorables. That's what we are to these people. To so-called Democrats, the communists, we are deplorables. We are not counted. We are the fringe. So mainstream America is now fringe. They want yes people, indoctrinated, mind-bent lapdogs to do their bidding, and they will have extreme power by stealing the election with a candidate like Joe Biden. So again, folks, Joe Biden needs to step down. But can you imagine if he wins? This is what we're up for. This is what we're up for. So I put this in here, and I'm not going to read from it. You can go and read it. I'll read you one piece. The goal of a truth commission in some forms, also called Truth and Reconciliation Commissions, is to hold public hearings to establish the scale and impact of past injustice, typically involving wide-scale human rights abuses, and make it part of the permanent, unassailable public record. Truth commissions also officially recognize victims and perpetrators in an effort to move beyond the painful past. Okay. That like South Africa, where they were hunting white farmers and beating them to death? That's your Truth Commission? No thanks. You can keep it. So I found something. I got thinking about this actually last night during the show that I was filming. And I started thinking to myself, I seem to remember that somebody who was on the Democrat side who held some form of power or sway, said that Trump was going to be the last United States president. Who the hell was that? So I finished doing the show. First thing I do, I go and I check it out. Well, lo and behold, that would be one of my non-favorite people, the dastardly Michael Moore. Says he believes Trump could be America's last president because he has no respect for the rule of law. Remember, folks, whatever they accuse you of doing is what they're doing. So if you get accused for having no respect for the rule of law, bet your ass they have no respect for the rule of law. And guess what? Who are they defunding? The police. What do the police do? They enforce the rule of law. So on every level, they always show us that whatever they accuse our side of doing, they themselves are doing. No one understands that. Seriously. So I'm going to get into two last things here. I want to show you a crazy, psychotic, left-wing lunatic who I had to copy off of, I think this came off of Parler.
Terrified! Listen to me, Republicans, listen! You are the people in history they warned us about! They warned us about people like you! Pay attention! We're losing our democracy! Wake up! Wake up!
Yep, that's what we're dealing with. That's what we're dealing with. That's the far radical left. That's the AOC supporters. That's the Bernie supporters. These people are backing Biden because they know Biden's not going to be in there for long because they're going to put Kamala Harris in, which is why I told you in last night's show Pelosi is trying to amend the 25th Amendment. She wants to add to it. You're kidding me, right? So, these people are the most devious people on the face of the planet. I mean, can you imagine an alien spaceship flying by and all of a sudden they pick up CNN or they pick up, static chatter going back and forth from cell phones, and they were to see some of these people acting, they'd be like, okay, get us out of this solar system. These people are wacko. Maybe that's why there's not a big thing of sightings of aliens anymore. So I don't know how many of you saw this. I thought this was absolutely the best. This is our president, and this is him at one of the rallies, and they're playing Spanish music, and he's in front of where there's a lot of Spanish people, and they caught him doing this. I thought that was funny. And it just shows you who he is. I think he's a decent guy. And I really honestly believe that he cares about the country. I think he's trying to do the right thing. I think he's got a certain amount of gruffness to him. I think he's stern, but yet I think he's steady as a rock. And I think he's unshakable. And I think if he tells you what he's going to do, he's going to keep his word, and he's going to keep fighting for America, and he's going to keep fighting for Americans. And if you're somebody who really doesn't want to vote for him because, he doesn't have the suaveness or he doesn't act like a president, I want you to take all of that out of the equation. I want you to ask yourself, say, do I want somebody who acts presidential and who can't get anything done? Or do I want to vote for the guy who doesn't act presidential and kind of pisses me off every once in a while because I find what he did embarrassing, and therefore I take it personally as an embarrassing attack on me because I'm an American. He represents me. I get that. I mean, I don't feel that way, but I can put myself in your shoes, and I can understand how someone might feel that way. I can. But for any other reason, I'm sorry that there's no other reason why you would not vote for this man. There's no reason why you wouldn't vote for him. It's a far cry better than what Biden's offering you. Biden's offering you communism, tyranny. He's offering you more lockdowns, more infringement on your rights. He's offering you more months worth of masks. He's offering us more unemployment, more stimulus, more debt, more food shortages. It's going to come. Can you just imagine if they were in power? Oh my God, the fifth wave of COVID is coming. We'll be in like 2023. Everybody like going to work like, holy fuck, when the hell is it? Am I ever going to wake up from this nightmare? I'm sorry, but 2020 has been bad enough. I want to end 2020 on a high note. I want Trump knowing that he's going in for 4 more years and that these people are finally going to get drained out of the swamp. If anything, because he's gone through all of these investigations and there's no dirt on him, please, people in the middle, I'm asking you now, because he has 96% of the base. The people in the middle, please look at his record, look at what he's done. Look at what he's done. Look at where the country is. Look at how many doctors, 18,000, agree with his stance on COVID. He's now basically outcast Fauci. And Fauci's under investigation. I'm telling you, Fauci's under investigation. He's in on it. He's in on this ruse. You understand that this whole thing, they said they wanted an insurance policy. Oh, they've had many insurance policies. It hasn't just been one. It wasn't the Russian collusion. It was many things. It was the 25th Amendment. It was wearing the wire. They've had so many. It's just unthinkable. And that is what has just kept us in turmoil for 3.5 years. And meanwhile, through all of that, through all of the investigations and everything else, which they came up with zero, this man has managed to get more positive done for America and Americans than any other presidential administration in history. And that is the truth. Whether mainstream media wants to share it or not, you can still find it all on the internet. I would really suggest you don't use Google because they suck. So because they suck, I want you to go to duckduckgo.com and use that as your search engine, because you're going to find out right away the real truth, because you're going to give you both sides in the first page. Whereas on Google, you're fed one side, which is what that man was already telling you. You're fed one narrative, and that's the narrative. They're going to direct you at it. Right now, they're not posting the Washington Post story on Hunter Biden, his laptop, the pedo videos, the drug videos, the text messages with his father, where he admits that he walks around the house naked, smoking his crack pipe, and there's a 13-year-old girl in the house, and he is admitting that he has been accused by, and I'm not kidding, his deceased brother's widow. He was dating her, and he was exposing himself to her daughter. And he's telling his dad about it. Meanwhile, Jill and Joe both condone the relationship that Hunter had with his deceased brother's widow while he was on crack. They accepted it. I'm sorry, folks, but these people have no morality. None. It's corrupt to the core. So with that being said, I think you know which way to vote. I think you know which way I'm voting. I think 100% that Trump is the better choice. And I think we need to get out and vote on election day, not before, not by paper and through the mail. I think you need to go in person. I think you need to tell your neighbors. I think you need to stand up and start talking to your neighbors and start asking them, why are you voting for Biden? Make them question why they're voting for Biden. Try to show them the light. Put some doubt in their minds. It might change some minds. Those few minds might be all the minds we need. This could come down to an election where we win by the thinnest margin. Or it could come down in a thunderous crescendo and Trump takes it by, 315 electoral votes. But if they steal the election from us, be prepared. Be prepared. Start stocking up on food now if you haven't. I'm serious. Get some canned goods this coming week. Lots of canned goods. Stock up on toilet paper. Stock up on paper towels while it's at the store. Get it. Because if these people are planning on causing chaos and mayhem and violence and walking through the suburbs, I mean, you've seen some of the videos now. These people are not afraid to bring out their firearms. Like, you may see killings in the streets, and you may see average American homeowners defending their homes. I'm hoping that you don't, but I'm saying, for God's sakes, be prepared. Be prepared. It happened once. It can happen again. I don't want it to be a war of brother against brother, sister against sister. That's not what America's about. They have divided us. The oligarchs and our own politicians, believe it or not, our own citizens. Some of these people have sold us out, and they are communists. And they live amongst us, and they teach our children. They make the laws and the rules that we have to abide by. And meanwhile, they don't. There's two sets of rules here, folks. There's two sets of law. Let's see what happens with this whole Biden thing. But I'm telling you right now, until they actually lead him out in handcuffs, they're not going to remove him from the ticket. And he's not going to resign from the ticket. These people are morally corrupt and morally bankrupt. These are the people that drove our country to be morally bankrupt, which is how the rest of the world sees us on a moral playing field. They aspire to be Americans because they love what the Constitution stands for and they want the American dream. But they look at us like we are like the sickest, most twisted people on the planet. And if you look at some of our cultural identities, we are, because we've been guided that way. I'm not bringing up my kids like that. They're not getting an iPad. They're not getting an iPhone. They're not getting a phone till they're, I swear to God, I don't want my kids having a phone till they're like maybe 11 or 12 years of age. I do not. I think that's one of the things that have corrupted our kids. I think that, along with these high-tech video games, these virtual reality video games. And I just want to ask you this one question. They've been, and I'm being serious here, I haven't even looked into this, but I've given it some thought, and I'm probably going to look into it. But they've been feeding us subliminal messages in our TV and in our, we go to movies and there's subliminal messages that flash in the screen before the show starts, and it tells you to go buy Coke, tells you to buy popcorn, it tells you to buy hot dogs, it tells you to go and eat, right? And people go out and they buy food. Well, when you come into the movie theaters now, they have the big giant TVs on. That's flashing in the background all the time. While you're getting your tickets, you're looking at the stuff that's playing, and you're being bombarded with that. So by the time you pay for your tickets and go into the movie theater, dude, you can't wait to get to that counter and buy that big bag of popcorn, extra salt, butter, the big thing of Coke, the, chocolate covered almonds, or whatever you're going to eat, right? The cheese chips, or, 3 hot dogs, or whatever it is you're going to have. But that makes you want it. Now these kids are walking around with these virtual goggles on, playing these video games. What's being scripted to those kids in the background? Seriously. Has anybody ever looked into that? That would be very interesting to find out if some of the games that are out there right now have subliminal messaging encrypted in them. Wouldn't that be just unbelievable if that were true? Wouldn't it be unbelievable if we were being exposed to that 24/7 while we watched a news show and we're already hearing all these bad things about Trump, and yet in the background we're being bombarded unconsciously in our minds about how bad Trump bad, Orange Man bad, and pretty soon you start walking around like a TDS infected zombie. Trump is bad, bad, bad. And then you become like Chris Murphy, my Connecticut senator, who was caught in Ukraine. He was caught talking to the Iranian foreign minister. He took money when he shouldn't have, when he was declaring bankruptcy on his home back in the 90s, right here in Connecticut, right? But he was part of the, actually, no, it was under the Obama administration, because he was the one giving out the money for the stimulus and to save the banks. So one of the banks that happened to be on the dole from the government, and Chris Murphy sat on the board, Chris Murphy had just basically gone insolvent on his home, but got a loan through this bank, but he sat on the committee that was giving that bank a loan to get them out of hock during the economic meltdown under Obama. Yeah. So Murphy, because he's a devout communist and he's a shill and he's on the take and he's enriched himself on the American taxpayer dollar and really hasn't done anything but try to ruin the country. He's anti-Second Amendment, which means he's anti-First Amendment. And he basically came out and said that Trump should still be investigated for Russian collusion, that he believes, this is today, in the afternoon, After the FBI and the DOJ came out and already admitted and stated that this has nothing to do with Russian disinformation, right? He comes out and says this is Russian disinformation and that Trump should not be having this investigated. And are you kidding me? So he is so blind. Like I said, they'll lie to you blatantly to try to get you to believe what they're saying and get you to the point of saying, what's really the truth here? But I'm a Democrat. I hate Trump, right? Because you've been fed that for 3.5 years now, burned in your head subliminally. I hate Trump. I hate Trump. Like a cyclone. Remember that from the 70s? Can't remember the name of the program. The cyclones. Woo-hoo. I hate Trump. I hate Trump. That's how these people think. They don't think any different. Anyway, I hope I've shown you some things tonight and why I feel the way I feel. But I'm telling you, folks, you got to get out and vote. Most important election of our lifetime. Most important election in the country's lifetime. Most important election for your children. Anyhow, if you like the show, hit the like button. I'd love to have you as a subscriber. If you can, give me some feedback on what you think of the show and how I can maybe change it up a bit or bring you different things or tell me things that you want me to investigate and search. And I'll go do the research and I'll bring a show about it. So anyway, you guys all have a great evening. Thanks for watching. God bless you. God bless your family. And God bless the United States of America. Thanks for watching. See you on the next one. Good night.